Hey again, everyone. I am back. I was having a few technical difficulties on that last feed, so I needed to back out so that I could connect with my good friend, Sherie. And there she is. Okay, so listen, I'm going to be joined by the one and only Sherie Dean. And we're going to dig into the real about events, event planning, event strategy, event marketing. Because you all know, my girl, Sherie, she know what she doing. All right. If you've ever been to a TLSA Net Social, then you know she knows how to put on an event. Thanks so much for joining me, Sherie girl.
Thank you for having me, Tracy. I absolutely love you.
Love you too. So let's dive into this because I know in the process of working with clients, it can be a challenge because if you've never put on an event before,
Mm-hmm.
you don't really understand what it takes. So if you were to tell someone who wants to put on an event, um, what the top things they need to be mindful of when it comes to strategy, what's the number one thing that comes to mind for you?
Preparation. It's the first thing that comes to mind because a lot of times people have these wonderful, brilliant ideas, but they don't take the time to truly prepare for them. And it leads to, just chaotic disarray, just a mess of things. Sometimes it may work out. Sometimes we fall into success, if that makes sense.
Right.
Other times there are, you know, problems that arise because we didn't properly prepare. And so preparation is very important. Preparation is key. And when I say preparation, I mean clear cut strategizing. And strategizing is you're truly planning out what it is that you're trying to do, what you're trying to accomplish, what those goals are going to be. What's the end goal for whatever event? Not just I'm putting my name on something or I'm doing something to say I did it. Um, Most of the times, it could be where you're trying to raise income for your business. You're trying to, boost some profit for your business a little bit. And you may think about hosting a small event. I don't think any event is small because there's so much that you have to do to prepare for it. Even at work, a lot of folks say that I am kind of OCD. When I'm planning out stuff, I literally make a wish list, a task list of everything that I want for this event or everything that I want to happen. And then after I look at that list, I go back and say, okay, now how can I make this happen? I start knocking them down into buckets. And when I say buckets, it's like, okay, here's where I'm gonna have to have some budget for. I'm gonna have to have funding for this. This I could probably get donated. This could possibly be sponsored. This over here I can handle myself, or I can partner with this organization or this company or this sister friend or this bro man that I know out here that does this, have build a partnership and they come on board with me. And so I always try to look at it like that, but plan it out. So I think the first thing for me is truly preparing yourself and giving yourself enough time, realistic
Yes.
time, to plan an event so that it has the probability of being successful.
Absolutely. Because I think that's really kind of my pet peeve is people who try to do everything at the last minute. I work best under pressure. No, you don't.
I
You
don't
just
want to do
don't know
that.
how well you can work with a plan.
Right.
And
Right.
it's one thing to have the ability to be able to work well under pressure. It's another to always procrastinate and wait to the last minute, and you have no choice but to always do things under pressure.
Right.
And having the time to really think through, like you were talking about, your end goal, you got to start with the end in mind. What is the feeling that you want people to have when they walk into the space? What kind of music? What kind of decor, what kind of, emotion do you want to evoke out of the people who attend? And a lot of times people think, oh, well, it's just a training conference. No, there's still a feeling in there. You want them to feel welcomed. Do you want them to feel like they're becoming a part of a community, a group of like-minded individuals? And that goes into how you structure things and how you plan
Right.
those things out. And you need time to really flush that vision out fully. I don't know if you've ever had this happen, Sherie, where you're literally like right before the event and a client changes their mind about an element and is upset because you're saying, we don't have
We can't do
time
that. We
to
don't
make
have
that
time to do
shift.
that.
No, not with this one. Now, for the next one, we can do that. But for this one, we got to press forward with the original plan.
Right. And that's important. And that's why planning is important. And giving yourself time to think about those things that you want to include in your event, or how you want it to look or play out, because you, in planning, you really need a time frame. You need to know if there's things that you need to order. You need to know how long it's going to take for the order to go through, for it to be shipped to you, all of that. And as OCD that might sound, that's where true planning comes into play, because you know down to the cent how much everything is going to cost. You know down to the time, the minute, the second that you're going to have everything together. That's very important. It I think what I've seen in the past is especially that, where someone, let's say 2 days before an event, no, that's actually giving me some time. Let's say 5 minutes before the event.
Uh-huh.
And 5 minutes before the event, it's okay. Well, man, we could really use. You think we got time to do a digital sign right quick to put? Okay, I'm good and I'm fast, but I'm not going to do that. And the reason why is because you begin, now for me, I can speak for myself. That's when my anxiety starts going through the roof. I start stressing out because I know I've allotted time for the last 5 minutes before an event to start to review any speeches that need to be, any scripts or anything like that. Hey, make sure everybody knows where they are supposed to be. Make sure that table placements are in place. I'm running around just doing one last double check.
Mm-hmm.
So that last 5 minutes, absolutely not. That's a great thing for us to tag for a debrief. When we debrief after this event, we're going to tag that in there for next year. And so I think really, sometimes we get really excited, or people know that you're doing an excellent job in helping them put together their event, plan and market their event, that they just get excited and they have these extra ideas and they just know you can do it. So surely, it's not going to take her
Of
any
course you can
time.
make it. You've been making everything else happen. I know you can make this happen in the last
Exactly.
5 minutes before we open the doors.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
And
Because I might look at you like this.
This is usually my look.
And I'm, yeah.
Like,
So,
great idea.
right.
Let's
table it.
And let's add that to next time. Because
right.
one of the things you don't want to do is try to do something at the last minute and it comes out half-ass.
Yep.
I don't want anything connected with me,
My
with
name.
your brand, that looks half-ass. If it
Right.
can't be done in excellence, it needs to be pressed pause on, and we need to wait and do it when we can do it in excellence. It's one thing if you have a technical glitch with some of your AV in the midst of someone's presentation, because
stuff happens.
I've
Stuff
been the
happens.
presenter and it's happened. I have been the event planner at events and it happens. And you got to be able to roll with the punches.
Mm-hmm. The other thing I was just thinking about, even because you mentioned the AD. So a lot of times we are trying to save or cut corners by handling it all ourselves and don't realize how important it is to have a team. So I think a team is very vital to the success of your business. A team is vital to the success of your events. Um, and I'm guilty of that. Everybody know I'm real guilty of that.
I've done it too.
Real guilty. TLSA Net Socials. I ain't never had no team. I ain't have a team, but I guarantee I did at the last minute start calling folks, be like, so can you be at the door to collect the money? Because I forgot that I need somebody doing that. So that's why
Girl,
it's important to make sure that you're writing down all this stuff in your planning, and you working with people that you trust. But you
absolutely.
definitely need a team.
Absolutely. And I'm going to tell you, honey, the first dance recital I did in Jackson,
Oh my
literally the week of the recital, it was the end of the summer. I was doing this recital. We actually held it at the medical mall.
God. Mm-hmm.
And oh my God, I had not thought through somebody in the dressing room helping the kids get dressed. And but I had somebody. I had already asked some folks to help me out at the door, passing out programs and stuff like that.
Right.
But I hadn't thought about the fact that I was functioning as MC. It's my recital. So I called in a favor. I called in one of my line sisters, and I called in one of my childhood friends. Was like, "Hey, could you help me out in the dressing room, dressing these babies?" Because they had multiple outfits they changed because each class had two performances.
Right.
So it was like, oh my God, hadn't thought about it. But again, it goes back to that whole thing of really taking the time to think through every single aspect from beginning to end. Going from ground zero to 100. What
Right.
what is that whole process?
Right.
I actually just did that with a client. I actually was just getting off of a call with a client planning their retreat.
Mm-hmm. Oh God.
By the time we went from ground zero to 100, people on the call, I could see it in their faces, overwhelmed. And they were
Mm.
like, we need more people. Yeah, we need
It's
more
a
people.
lot.
It's a lot that goes into it. And especially when you're so used to doing things in Houston or in where you in your town, and you can quickly just grab people.
Right.
Her retreat is outside the country.
Mm.
So trying to plan for that, you have to take those things into consideration. And so we're having those conversations, and we're having them far enough out at this point that the baseline team is pretty strong and can
Right.
handle probably about 90% of what was on the list.
Mm-hmm.
But we realized as we really began to get into the granular of some of the different things that have been added to the plan, we're gonna need a few more
Interesting.
people. So
Right.
now you have to go back to the drawing board and figure out, okay, who can come, who can make the trip, who are the right asks to make. And so be that team is such a key component to the successful planning as well as execution of that plan.
Yes. Yes. The execution. And yeah, it's one thing to be prepared as far as having a plan, but it's another to be able to successfully execute that plan. And having the right people on your team and them knowing their role. I'm trying to remember this thing that I literally just learned this week, and it's called the BART. I don't know. Have you heard of BART? BART, all caps. It's called a
Mhm.
BART, but basically it's about knowing your role.
Mm-hmm.
Basically about, I got to find out what it is. I wrote it down somewhere. I can find it.
Okay.
But
Okay.
it's about knowing your role. And it's very interesting because while in a team, there people always say there's no I in team, but when you understand what your role is, you understand that you're still doing what you stand in your lane, and yet you're helping out the team by making sure your part is complete. So it's really interesting to look at the dynamics of the setup of a team, and ensuring that you have capable people on your team to, successfully execute those items, so that you go off with a hitch. And again, things will happen, could happen, but when you have the right team, it's it can go a lot smoother.
Oh
So
yeah,
for
absolutely.
instance, I'm really excited about this one event that's coming up next, I'm about to say next month, but in July. And my client, it has a vision that is so big and so wonderful, and it really tugged on me. Like, this is right up my alley. I'm excited to be on the team, just to share the vision, just to share what she's trying to do with her conference. And it's but when I say she got a team, and I didn't realize, because it sometimes you just thinking, okay, you're having that conversation with this person, and you know what role you play. But then when you start asking questions, because the role that I play, PR and marketing, there are other questions that I need to know, answers that I need to know in order to do what I got to do. And so when I say it's immediate response, and everybody else on the team is like working, gelling together, getting stuff done, I'm like, man, this got to be the most fun, easiest. But it works because you have capable people on
Mm-hmm.
your team, and she's allowing us, each of us, to do what we have the expertise to do.
Oh, and
So
that's
that's the other thing. So the other thing is letting go. You gotta let go and let your team handle it. Let go, let your
yeah.
team handle it. And but I'm gonna be real honest. While I think it is brilliant and awesome to do that, I'm gonna be just transparent. I have never really had a team, and I've never really done it. And it's not because I don't want one. I All the people that I know, and I know a lot of folks, my struggle is asking for that help. My struggle is knowing, exactly, well, it's my passion. Are they gonna be passionate about it too? You know what I mean? So that has been my worry. But at the same time, if it's something that they do, and that clearly that in that role they're passionate of doing it, if they believe in what it is your product is or what your event is, then they're going to do a great job. And it's just, letting go. It's all about, it's that letting go part. But preparation, planning, having a real strategy, a real one, planning that stuff out. And I don't mean 2 weeks and 3 weeks and a couple of weeks in advance.
Right.
So
Right.
what I guess my question, I know what I'm thinking, but my question for you is like, what would you consider, um well, let's use that retreat. You said that you guys are already started kind of far in advance in starting the planning for a retreat that's outside of the country. Like, how long do you think you need for planning, or what's the lifespan of that planning cycle?
Um, if we didn't have someone on the ground, and this is something that we started first of the year working on for the end of September, normally I would say you need to plan a year in advance.
Mm-hmm.
You need to have laid out your vision, and make a trip to check out the space and everything,
So
if you're going someplace else, because this is the thing. It's great to have somebody say, oh yeah, I went to XYZ and I stayed at this hotel and I loved it. Is it your vision?
right.
Does it line up with your vision? And until you see it, you don't know. So when I was working on my retreat, you know, I had started planning this several years ago. So the vision was clear and I knew kind of where I wanted to start, but I hadn't been to San Juan in over a decade. So it's different, you
Right.
know? So going down there in February and actually checking everything out and experiencing everything the way it is today, I was able to see my vision come together.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are planning something that's outside the country, that give yourself a year to plan and execute that plan, because it's it's going to take time, because there's all kinds of things you have to take into consideration. What are the travel requirements, and especially in the world the way we
That
are
we're
right
living in
now,
now. Yes.
because a lot of folks want to say we're post-pandemic, and I still am not at a point where I want to say we're post-pandemic, because that's still an issue. There's still a possibility that you have to take into consideration. So
Right.
be mindful of the fact that you need to plan these things out in advance. You need to be thinking about when's the best time of year to go to this location. The time
Yeah.
of year you want to have your event may not be a good time for that location. Weather wise, you know, if it's peak season, it may be hard for you to be able to bring a large group to that location. So
Mm-hmm.
there's all kinds of things you have to take into consideration when you're contemplating a large scale event in another country.
Right.
And I know
And
it,
even, you know what, when you were talking, you said that it was something else that I thought about, like the travel uh rules, regulations, whatever, restrictions, and then how soon to book your flights. Um it's, God, I can't imagine. I know the lengthy checklist that I have for in city events. I can only imagine the checklist for going, overseas. Like,
I'd say take about half of that checklist and tack it on to the end. Because there's like, you know, because one of the things that we thought about today, just in talking with the host, is that because to go to St. Martin, you actually need a passport.
mm-hmm.
So, setting up to have somebody talk to them and walk them through the process of getting a passport now, because it's different than it was pre 9/11. It is different than it was even 5 years ago in many ways. So you have to have that understanding and provide that to the people you're inviting, to make sure that their investment comes together like you want, because they need their travel documents to be tight. And if you've never gotten a passport before, it can be an overwhelming process to go through.
Right. And not to mention, if you need to get certain permits and what you call license, and then insurance, and oh my God, y'all, the list goes on and on, and it's really baffling to me. I'm just gonna go off a little bit to the left. One of the things that has always bothered me about, you know people hosting events, it's not the people hosting the event, it's the folks coming that don't appreciate all the work that go into it, because I seem to always be a part of the ones trying to put something together, and then you have people who don't appreciate it, don't want to pay, don't want to want their name on the list.
Yeah. Oh,
Look,
oh.
when I laugh so hard. George Chuck Patterson posted on his Facebook page about, don't come to no Mississippi Greek weekend asking for me, because Trina B gonna get you. I mean, pretty much. And she look at you like you crazy. Ain't no name on no list. I was working for Mississippi Greek weekend and asked for Chuck for something, and Trina about threw me out. I'm like, Trina, remember I'm on the team. on the team, baby. But it's important, I think, on both sides for people to understand that putting these events together is not easy. It takes so much work, so much planning, so much effort, a lot of money at times for people to put these things together. And so that's why I'm a stickler. I don't hassle folks. I never really I don't even think I've asked people to put my name on a list before. I don't mind paying for stuff because I understand there's work involved. Now, on the flip side, people are paying to come to your event. The pet peeve of mine is providing what you say you're going to provide.
Yes.
So do what you say you're going to do. If you have VIP and there's certain package that VIP is supposed to receive, ensure that you have that before you even put that out.
Oh, absolutely.
I think
Because
we jump the gun sometime and we have these bright ideas and let's make it look sexy, but then we don't have the lingerie to fit. You know what I'm saying?
oh, absolutely. I mean, because
You
how
really
often
you
have
really
you
rocking.
gone to an event that you paid
Exactly.
for and your swag bag was full of paper,
Yeah.
coupons, flyers,
And
discounts?
nobody wants, and honestly, nobody wants that. And
No,
I thought about that even with the TLSA Net Social because I had the Get in Your Bag for TLSA, the last one. And it really was a challenge for them to, because, everybody was saying, I'm getting in my bag, all that stuff, they doing their business and all of that. But how are you making those connections to really deepen that bag? You know, and if you really want to get in there, you're going to build liable and credible relationships with folks and partnerships that's going to help you enhance your business and therefore enhance the or increase the profit coming into your business. So I had them fill out these little cards and I was like, what are three main things that you need from this event and from, or not necessarily from this event, but what are the three things that you need that you could possibly get from the people attending this event that will help you truly get in your bag? And so they had to literally go to everybody and see where they matched up.
mm-hmm.
So I thought that was kind of interesting little exercise.
Yeah,
So it was called Getting Your Bag. So all they had was paper. But what
but
the goal was,
that was a productive piece of paper.
well, yeah.
That was a productive piece of
That
paper.
had a goal with it.
Yeah, there was something attached to that ultimately later on would really turn into something. But when you tell me you have a swag bag, I'm expecting some samples.
Like lip gloss. If you
I'm
make
expecting some kind
candles,
of samples,
if you
maybe
make candles, put
maybe a
put some little
tumbler,
things up in there.
books, something.
Yeah.
I'm actually some substance. If you say I'm paying for VIP and I'm getting a swag bag, I want some swag.
Right.
I want
Right.
some actual swag. So, because one of the things that I did that I'm doing for my retreat, I have dollars in my budget that if I don't get, corporate sponsorships or donations from businesses to put items in that bag, I'm buying them.
Mm. And that's the reality of it. You have to prepare yourself. You got to have a plan A and a plan B. Of course, plan A is to get those sponsorships and donations. Plan B is you missed um their what a fiscal year budget.
Yeah,
Their budgeting, they done spared all that out. So,
yeah,
and that's another thing people have to understand. No fiscal years, especially when you're trying to get sponsorships. Look on their websites, and a lot of times they may have their budget years on their fiscal year plans, so you can see kind of where their fiscal year begins and ends, and try to get into their budget. Especially
yeah,
like, say for instance, like right now, um, honestly, it's really not a good time if you didn't start asking for sponsorships. I say in the fall of last year, in the winter or early spring. It's getting harder now for people to get sponsorships because they've had major events already scheduled out. Stuff may have already budgeted, especially for the summertime. So when you start going into the fall, that's because, like, for instance, some of these folks' fiscal years end the end of September. So
Yeah.
when you start going into those summer months, they starting to kind of tighten up. Like we might have to look this for next year, and then
Yeah.
look at grants. Look to see what kind of grants. If you're a 501c3 trying to host an event, look to see what kind of grants these major companies have, especially when it's dealing with minority and women owned and stuff like that. Those are key terms to even look up to see where you can get some funding for your 501c3 foundation event or whatnot. So planning is very crucial. And even if you go out there, and I like to say, test the streets. You put your pinky toe out in the streets, and see if you get hit or not. You get your pinky toe out there. You put an event out there just to get a bite or taste to see how it rolls, and if you need to move it to a different part of the year to get more support or whatever. But the other thing is knowing your community, knowing what their interests are and how to cater to them, and also seeing what else is going on around that time that
Oh
you're
yeah.
thinking of hosting your event. So it's so much to think about
Yeah. And you
when
got
it comes to planning an event.
yeah, because oftentimes I see, and I'm be honest, I've made the mistake too, where I'm like, people need this, and I create this event around this thing that I feel they need, but if they don't recognize that they have that need, they're
They
not
don't
going
know it's
to
for them,
respond. They're not going
and
to
they're not going to
respond to it.
respond right.
So you got to make sure it's a pain point that hits home, that they will respond in the way you need them to respond in order to really bring value into the
Mm-hmm.
space. It's not just about creating something that they can get dressed and show up at. It's not
Right,
about
right,
that. This is not a college party. Okay. You
right.
know, we didn't, when we were doing parties on the yard, it wasn't a whole lot of planning involved. It wasn't. No, not just
It was, but them daggone flyers was everywhere though, boy.
yeah,
If
because
you weren't
you had to figure
ever
out what
on
the
a
theme was
flyer,
gonna be,
man, the flyer drop
and
teams.
that's it. You just put it out.
Right.
Um, but when you start talking about your events that your business or your nonprofit is going to put on, you have to take it seriously and make sure that what you're doing is going to attract the audience that's going to buy the tickets, that's going to make
Right.
the donations, that's going to want to be engaged and involved in what you're doing. Otherwise, you are wasting your time.
Right. Absolutely. And so I was trying to think of something else that I've seen where people just don't prepare. Um Geez,
Not
what
having
is
a
it?
budget for entertainment.
Yeah.
Okay, so look, y'all know I like to just be real, so I'm gonna be real, real with y'all right now. I had a conversation back when I still had my dance studio. I had a promoter who was putting on a street festival, and I'm not gonna name the street festival because then you'll know who I'm talking
Okay.
about. So it was one of them festivals that happens, and the request was for some of the students to come and perform as
Mm-hmm.
entertainment. And it happened to be at the time that we were working on taking a group to New York to perform. And we were raising money for the kids whose parents couldn't afford to pay for them to go. So I was like, I said, so what's in your budget for them to perform? And he got really quiet. And he's like, well, I thought it would just be great exposure for your studio and for your students. And before I thought about it, it came out my mouth. I said, I have been exposed so much in Jackson that I
Right.
should be arrested for indecent exposure. So
You
no,
silly.
thank you. I'm like, some of these kids are preparing to try to go to New York. Whatever you pay the group is going to go toward their trip. I'll let you collect donations. If people are showing up to an event to eat, drink, hang out, have fun,
And be
how many of them are
entertained.
actually going to reach into their pocket and make a donation? Not me.
Right.
And I'm like, I know
That
you're
that
paying the
looks like
musicians,
charity.
you're paying the sound team, You're paying all the rest of the entertainers to be there, and you're charging a ticket at the gate. So
But
it's
you
not a
can't pay
free
me.
community event. It's a paid ticketed event. So you got money in your budget. You're telling me you can't allot $250, $500 to go toward these kids' trip. And he just looked
That's
at
like, that is insane. That's like
yeah,
me when I asked, okay, so when I did the last TLSA Net Social, I charged for that. It was a ticketed event, and I made sure whether I made what profit or not, I made sure that my host was getting paid, that I paid my DJ, that I paid the venue, matter of fact, and the food. And the crazy thing about it is, the look on the faces of all of those people, because as soon as I got estimates, because I asked, that's how I do my stuff. What's your estimate? I don't necessarily ask for a budget. It's like, what's your estimate on this is what I want? What's your estimate? And I let them tell me how much it's going to cost. I don't, because I am getting more comfortable with understanding people's worth, including my own, and valuing that, because, and not being afraid to, if you said, well, Sherie, you asked me to speak at this event for you, my fee is $550 for 30 minutes. Okay, if I can't afford that, or I don't have a sponsor to cover that, I'm just gonna be like, "Oh, baby, I'm gonna save you for next year. Is that okay if I put you down as tentative for next year, because I got to get my dollars up?"
yeah,
I will. There's no way I'm gonna be like, "Well, my budget ain't but $150."
right. But
No,
I think so much of that is that it's about the person who's putting on the event and how much they value the artist they're
right,
asking.
right.
And
There's no way.
when there's a disconnect, it's that whole thing. And this is what I was getting told by some people was, well, they already know the dances and they already have the costumes. So what's the cost? I got there and I said, their parents still have to bring them to rehearsal, because just because we did the dance one time doesn't mean that we don't continue to rehearse, because we do.
The dance is the
Um,
art. I don't
and
understand.
then there's gas to get people back and forth, because I got to go pick all these kids up. And, all of these things were going on. And I'm just sitting here and I'm going, there has to be an understanding that there is a cost involved with what we do. And it was just amazing to me how often that happened. And it got to a point where I just finally just said, this is what always start being my first question. So is this a ticketed event or a free community event? If it was a ticketed event, I said no, unless they came at me and said, oh, we're prepared to pay your group X to
Mm-hmm.
perform. If they weren't prepared for that, and this is the crazy thing, the mindset was, because if they were kids, they shouldn't have to pay but you like this entertainment enough to invite us to be a part of it. So apparently they're good.
Right.
So
So that's a whole slap in the face to me. And I'm just gonna say, from the one who's always trying to be so empowering and encouraging and loving and hey heart, uh, you being too nice. I No, it's
no,
a service.
it's a service. It's a
You're
service.
paying for the talent. You're paying for the service. Period.
Yeah.
You can't afford it. Bye. Move on.
If
So
it was a
it's
free
that's
community
not.
event,
Yeah.
we never questioned. We showed up. And this is the crazy thing. When we would take the kids to free community events, people would make donations.
Interesting.
But if we did it at a paid event, literally, I think we got a donation from one of the people who was performing. And that was it. And
Yeah.
so I was like, this is a waste of our time and energy and effort if we
Mm-hmm.
can't raise money, you know, to do the things we were trying to do for this group of young people. And so, you know, we're sharing this to say to you as event
Yes.
production people, as promoters, baby, get your budget up.
Get
And
your
if you
budget
want to
together.
ask somebody to perform and share their talent, their gifting with you, it dance is a discipline. Music is a discipline. And don't get me started on how some people treat visual artists.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
honey, get your duckies up. If you ain't got your money
And
up
I'll
and you
tell
can't
you how to
afford to
do
do it,
that.
handle it.
And this is how, and if you don't have a budget, because a lot of times I understand you like, okay, how do I create a budget for my event? This is what I've done, because I was like, I don't even know where to begin. I didn't know how much the stuff costs, so I don't know where to begin. Oh, let me ask. So what I would do is make a list of everything I know I need, and then start calling companies or folks that I know who do it. Okay, how much, what's your estimate on this? And so based off those estimates, I build out my budget. Then I compare, okay, this is what it's gonna take for me to put this event together. All right, this is how much money I got. Okay, so let's subtract these two. This is how much money I need. So that's when I start going for donations, and even if I have to sell something, a product or something, to try to help offset, or look and see, okay, what is it on that list that I can actually handle, or get a team member to handle that would offset that cost, or
Mm-hmm.
get a sponsorship. So I will say this: I had, for the last TLC Social, I did just that, and for me, it's easier for me to do it that way, especially because I hadn't done an event in a while. I just went and got all my estimates and decided, which ones I wanted to go with, and figured out how much more money I needed. So, talking to a good friend of mine, I was like, "Don't you want to sponsor my? Don't you want to sponsor my event? I need $250, and that's it, to help cover the last bit of cost." I could have paid for it, but the fact that, you always want to make sure that you have that support too. So I went out, I talked to one of my friends, and I was just, really just in passing, kind of joking. But then next morning, I had it in my account. And and sometimes you're gonna, and it was a silent partner, but sometimes you'll have people who don't want to necessarily be seen. They just truly believe in your work and they want to support you. So it's okay to even tap your friends, put out a nice little message to your friends and say, "Hey, I have this event going on. I've already, I'm looking at X amount of dollars to make this a success. If you truly believe in what I'm doing, I know you do because you support me, any donation would help." So, and where I thought about some of those tactics that were used in that book, with the millionaire book.
We
Um,
should all be
we
millionaires.
should all be millionaires, and that's one of the things that she did. And I was like, oh yeah. So it was just interesting because some it's it was you know what, we should totally talk about that book one day. Like,
Oh
we should
yeah, we
totally.
do need to talk about that book because
I
I
just
had
want to
to
read that
pick
book
it
all
back
over
up
again.
today because I know I
Oh my
need
god.
to, with the launch of the new
Refresher.
brand, I need
Yes.
to plan for one of my 10K in 10 days.
Yes. So, yeah, that'd be a great challenge. We need to do that. So it's just interesting because that's just how I set mine up when I'm not sure. I go and I get the estimates subtracted from the money that I know I have set aside for it, and work that way. To
Yeah.
me, it's a lot faster. But you gotta have time. You can't do that 3 and 2 weeks before your event. You
Right.
got to give yourself some time.
You
Depending
gotta,
on the scale of your event, you need to. I mean, honestly, for every 100, every 20 to well, is it 50? Every 50 to 100, I say 2 2 months for every 50 to 100 people you trying to
yeah. Because
accommodate.
especially if this is the first time you're hosting an event. So it's an untested, untried
Yeah.
event. People are going to be skeptical about buying a ticket. They're going
Yes.
to be skeptical about putting their money down. So you've got to have time to show them the value in what you're bringing to the table.
Right.
And, you know, that's the thing that a lot of people don't get. You can't just pop up, okay, I'm having an event next month and y'all need to show up.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
And it's really hard to do something like that. And like right now, I'm trying to put together some events, and we've talked about what I need, and I owe you some work. But it's tough when you don't have this stuff thought out, when you don't have that plan. And it's okay if you got somebody that you trust that you can link up with and be like, okay, this is what I'm thinking for this event, especially if it's the first one. What are your thoughts? Am I doing it too early in the day? Am I doing it too late in the day? Am I doing it around the wrong time of the month? Am I doing it, is there something else that I don't know about that's happening? I promise you, I want people to pay attention to what's going on in your communities when you're hosting these events, because you don't want to be competing, especially when you're new at it. You don't want to be competing with other events that may overshadow yours, because
Oh,
that's, to me,
absolutely.
doesn't give you a fair advantage. So pay attention to what's going on and tap into those people who are like-minded with what it is that you're trying to do, that would be interested in your event. So and that's what I do. That's what I'm doing. I do for myself. That's what I'm doing for my clients. And like for this conference, this Women Empowerment Conference is coming up in July. When I say I'm going in, I'm just really like bum rushing women, especially like I'm googling keywords for these folks so I can find them specifically, and make sure that the event is in their face. And then I'm doing the marketing behind it. So there's a lot. And I'll be launching, some people have already received it, but the I Am campaign, I got to send that to you. The I Am campaign, I'm
Yeah.
really excited about that. But it's just so much, and this is the first one for her. And so she has an advantage because she got a solid team, and she got a lot of stuff that she's been able to do and accomplish with for this first conference. I mean, she's already got a big name person coming, so I'm like really excited, just to be a part of it and to help share it. But if this is as successful as I know it's going to be, I can't imagine what next year is going to look like,
Oh,
because this is the debut.
yeah. Right.
So you got to get your pinky toe out there and test the street.
You know what? See, this is the thing. Okay, look, all of you who are afraid to host your first event, guess what? Do it. I don't
Please.
care if 5 people show up. There was 5 people that weren't connected to you before that showed up, paid a ticket, paid the price to get in to your event. You show up at the highest level possible.
Yep.
Trust me, your next event might be 20,
Right.
25, because those
Or
5 people are going to share what they got out of your event. And so when you say you're doing it again, you've got some ambassadors out there, and
exactly. That's your free advertisement. That's your
yes,
marketing right there.
yes. I mean, the biggest thing to have happen is for somebody to share your event and you hadn't asked them to share your event. That is huge because they believe in
Oh
you,
my
they
God.
believe in what you're trying to do. So I'm sorry, y'all. I have got some little bug came in with me this afternoon and it likes the light. And so it's flying.
All around you. But I
But
was I was gonna say, like, okay, so I remember the first time, my first TLSA Net Social Girl, and it was at this place called Circa.
yes,
Do you remember that?
I remember.
I think it's a cigar shop now. But I love that spot. I kid you not. So how I got that location is, me and my mom was looking for somebody a gift or something, and we were just out there in that area. And mom was like, "Oh, this place looks swanky. Let's go up in there." So we went up in there, and I was like, "Oh, this is nice." I couldn't afford nothing in there, but I was like, "Oh, this is really nice." And then for whatever reason, just got to talking, And I was talking about how I wanted to host an event. I was doing my first event. My mom was really proud. She had my business cards and everything, and giving it to them. And the lady that the owner was there. I was talking to the owner and didn't know it. And she was like, "Do you have a venue for your event?" And I said, "No, I've just been trying to figure out where to have it, and I'm freaking out because it's gonna be soon, and I don't have a place yet." And she said, "Well, why don't you have it here in this place? You got glass, decor, and everything in here." No. And so, long story short, end up having it there. And the night of the event, it stormed like a fool outside. I'm pretty sure it was 2 tornadoes that touched down. And I cried all the way to the venue because I just knew wasn't nobody gonna be there.
I didn't know that, girl.
Girl,
After all this time, I know that.
I was so upset. So once I got in there, because I got there, of course, before everybody, make sure everything was set up. Um, Kimmy Sweet walked in. She had her sweets and stuff, and all the other folks came in that was helping. And at first, it was just people that like family and the folks that's a part of it, the folks that were donating the food and the wine. And I'm like, man, it's storming cats and dogs out there. And what somebody told me earlier, deer and antelope. And I was just like, oh my God. Next thing I know, I turned around and it was all kind of people in there. I could not believe that many people showed up. And this was my first ever event by myself.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like a fire that ignited in me after that. I was like, I can do this. And
Yep.
sometimes it just take you, thrusting yourself out there is scary as I don't know what, because you don't know if people are going to accept it or be receptive of it, but you got to do it. If you don't do it, you'll never know.
And the reality is this: the reason we're afraid of having the rejection of people not showing up is because we feel like they're rejecting us. And
Yeah.
that's not what it is. It's the idea that you placed out there. It might not have gotten to the right people, or
Yep.
it's just not quite right. It's not the right idea. And sometimes you might be ahead of your time, because I've seen that happen where people put stuff out and it doesn't go, it kind of falls flat. 6 months later, 8 months later, they try it again and it takes
Yep.
off. But you have to be willing to put it out there, figure out what's working, what's not working, in order for you to make it better. Nobody's event starts off just fabulous.
Popping.
It takes time and effort for you to fine tune those things. And I mean, what I hosted my that first recital I told you about, literally, it was just the parents of the kids, nobody else. There was nobody else there. Some of my friends, that was it. But it was just that. But my last recital we had over at Belhaven,
Hmm.
because we had all of my students. We did a complete citywide showcase. I had APAC, and we had people,
Yeah.
and I actually, that time I had a team.
And you know what? And the best part about the team too is they want to see you succeed, so they sharing the events and supporting it and telling everybody about it too, because that helps
Oh
them.
yeah,
So
girl.
when I tell you, okay, so if I go back to where we started in this conversation, the key things for people to take away when they're planning or hosting an event is the planning. Know what your plan is and put together a solid smart gold strategic plan for that event to ensure that it is successful, because without a plan you already know the rest, you fail.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
then so you're planning it, and then you're marketing it, knowing who your audience is, being able to cater to them, and making sure you have your team. And then also I think another thing to important is within that, going back to the planning, within that, knowing how far in advance to begin that planning.
yeah.
And what was it was one other thing that I was thinking what I'm missing. We said planning, marketing, routine. It's on my.
Oh, this is my thing with the whole plan. Once you got the plan in place and you begin to execute, I believe in confirming, confirming, confirming.
Oh God, yes, yes.
You know,
That is really, really big. And you know what? I think a lot of people forget about that.
yeah,
They
the
get
assumption is
don't
I paid the deposit, I signed the contract, we're good.
follow up with
No, you
confirmation.
have to do this. I ended up at the last minute helping a friend of mine out with an event. And so I'm coming in just a couple of weeks before. Okay. And at the time, I'm asking the questions, but I didn't confirm for myself. He's telling me, "Oh, we did this, this, this. All this is done. The contract signed, deposits paid. Da 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 da. We're good." He used a venue that did not have any tables and chairs. He had to rent those from somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
We arrive at the venue 3 hours before to meet the folks with the tables and chairs and set up, right? No
Ain't nobody.
tables and chairs. On the phone, calling. The person he paid the deposit to and signed the contract with either quit or was fired right after that. It was sitting in the sales department, never made it to the distribution department, and was not on the calendar. Even though the deposit was paid, it was lost in
Mm-hmm.
limbo. And because there had not been any follow-up since that, the company's clueless. And he did this
Right.
3 months prior, so plenty of time.
Wow.
So I'm on the phone. They're like trying to scramble to figure out how to get us the tables and chairs that he paid for. Because we got a lady standing here with linen, no tables and chairs to put it on. So hour and a half later, we finally have tables and chairs arriving, and it's nearing time to open doors.
Right. You
We're
got to
scrambling.
hurry up, get that
So
stuff set up.
this is one of these times where having the person still setting up the drapes came in handy. I went over to her and I said, "Do you think you could do us a couple of extra drapes?"
Mm-hmm.
And so we ended up doing was partitioning off the food section, like the little light bites that
Yeah.
was part of the cocktail hour. We moved all of that at the entrance where everybody was checking in. She put up some drapes so that we could finish setting the tables
Uh-huh.
behind them so nobody could see.
Hey,
So
you
we
got to
ended
be
up
creative.
having to pay a little extra for the drapes because she ended up using more of her
Mm-hmm.
stuff. But it was a last minute fix because it was like people gonna start coming through this door before we're done setting all of this up. And it
Right.
was one of those things that it was like in my mind, always confirm. Always confirm. That's why I don't like coming in and just do day of coordination because I don't know what I'm walking into.
And you know what? I'm thinking when you have a team too, it's always good to have that one person on the team that kind of acts as the I guess an administrator to ensure that all the stuff been ordered
Yep.
and that stuff has ordered that you've received things that are supposed to come in. And what time to expect them when it's part of setup. Follow-up email goes out to all those parties. Hey, and that's what I do for all my events. I'm like, okay, we are nearing our spectacular event of da 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 on this date. We expect setup time to be this, and I'm real anal, so I include everything. I literally put set up in bold with the time frame in bold
Yes.
underneath that. What all is supposed to be set up, where they are supposed to be, and then my OCD has a map attached. Then breakdown. Boom, 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 bing, bing, bing. With the agenda of the flow of the event or run a show in the middle. Like that is very important.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
I'm
I believe
just weird
in
like that.
I'm the 30 days out, 2 weeks out,
I do
we
it like I do
come
all on my birthday.
3 days before. I mean, you
Yeah.
have to make sure. You can't assume. Anytime you assume, you are setting yourself up for something to
Failure.
fall through the cracks. And so making that part of the plan and having someone that's responsible for making sure what things are supposed to be there and making sure that everybody is, something as simple as somebody putting a date on their calendar wrong. That
Right.
happens.
That does happen.
And
That does.
so the follow-up emails make sure that they confirm that they got this date on their calendar
Mm-hmm.
like they need to. And and anytime you are dealing with anybody, anything can happen. You
Yep.
know, because people can get in car accidents, people can, quit unexpectedly, people can just pass away. You don't know. You don't know. So you
Right.
have to do the follow up and make sure that things are handled when you're hosting an event, because people are paying money to be there and have this experience, and you need to make sure it's what you promised. Yeah.
Yep. It,
So
it's a lot. And I
it's a
think
lot.
what would help too is just maybe sharing some of those things that we talked about, like in a list, so that people can see this is what we mean, or the key things for having a successful event.
Oh, absolutely. So I say number one, having a very clear vision, keeping the end in mind. What does this event ultimately supposed to look like? And then you can go to number two and begin to build your plan for how you're going to accomplish that. And making sure that you're including everything that Sherie does, all that marketing and PR strategy, because it's great to have an amazing event, but if don't nobody know about it.
Right. You're right.
Yeah. So you got your vision, you got your plan, making sure it's including your marketing and your PR strategy, and making sure that you've got a team to help you execute it in excellence. And taking care of all those little bitty things like the confirmation emails, making sure you've got a layout of how things are going to be set up. I believe I create a complete manual, and you know this, Sherie, because you worked with me on the breast cancer walk community.
Yep.
I created this manual because this was my Bible per se for the event, and everybody that worked with me got a copy of that manual. So even if I wasn't around, you could find the answer right there in the manual.
Exactly. Now
And that's how you have to operate with
that's
your team.
top notch preparation.
Yes. And that's what I was taking my client through earlier today, is their logistics manual that I am building from the ground up. This is her first retreat, and she wants to make sure that it's tight. So I'm laying every single element out. This ultimately is going to be the foundation for this event that she's going to host every single year, regardless of whether she wants to stay in St. Martin or take it to another country. It's a complete outline from everything from venue management to getting all of your details in place for your food and beverage, every single agenda for every single day of the event, going to the spa, going on the boat, whatever. It's all going to be laid out in this one document. It's going to be immense because this is a 5-day 4-night retreat. So there's a
That
lot.
sounds like a product that you need to be selling.
Actually, that actually is going to be available. We are currently working on the template right now. I'm working with the designer on the template now. And so just so y'all know, the new company is launching next month.
Woo!
So yes, the logistic manual is going to be a very key component of something that I will be sharing with the world. If you don't want me to coordinate your event, I still got you.
I love
Can
it.
help you lay everything out. But making sure you've got all those details in place so everyone on the team, even if it's not their responsibility, they still know. So if someone walks up and says, hey, what time is dinner going to be served? They can open up their manual or open it up on their tablet and go, oh, dinner is going to be served at 7:15. So you have 30 minutes to mingle.
Love it.
You know,
And
so that's
that's
that
also
thing.
important,
That's that next
making sure
level
that
stuff.
your team knows exactly what's going on.
Yeah, because I'm gonna be honest. If I walk up to somebody and it's obvious they're working the event and I ask them a question, something as simple as that of what time is dinner going to be served, and they're like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
you know what? I don't know where Emily is. Let me find.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Emily, the only person that know when the food gonna hit the table. Yeah. So don't just have people show up day of your event to help and you haven't briefed them on anything. That is a very bad look. I always have meetings with my volunteer teams leading up to the event. One, maybe two calls just to make sure everybody's clear on what their responsibilities are so that they don't show up just blind like, I'm here.
Right. It's crazy.
So Sherie, before we pop off of here, we've thrown out a whole lot of different stuff. So why don't you share about your upcoming event for your client? What's that event?
Oh, yes. Okay. So the event is I Am Women Empowerment Conference, and it's coming up Saturday, July 16th at the brand new Sheridan Refuge Hotel in Flowood, Mississippi. This event is from 9 a.m. until 3 p.m. And the featured or guest speaker, it is a panel, but our major guest speaker for this event is Pastor Deborah B. Morton. That's Pastor Morton's wife.
Okay.
And I will say she has a new launch that she will be sharing and unveiling at the event.
Okay.
And special guests will be able to partake in that VIP. So
All
you'll
right.
get more information about that. But we also have, of course, sponsorship opportunities and registration. Early bird tickets are about $55. And I definitely encourage you to get them now. Actually, I will be giving away 2 tickets probably next month. I said probably like June 16th is the date. I wanted to do it like a month out. But the organization, the foundation that is hosting this event is called Her Philosophy. And Her is an acronym: hope, encouragement, and reassurance. And this is for women empowerment. And so my client, like I said, is a visionary and sweet person, sweet as pie. And she has this huge passion for women. And she's also in the healthcare field. So I'm just really excited about this event. There's going to be, of course, panel discussion. There's Dr. White. There's Vascola, Dr. Vascola that's going to be there, a Reverend Vascola. Cynthia, who's an evangelist and real estate guru. I believe her name is Rashida Walker. So I'm
Okay.
really
Yeah.
excited about these beautiful, brilliant women who are going to share this stage at this new hotel and conference center. I'm excited. And when I tell
Awesome.
you, they have stuff that is going to be phenomenal in this event. I'm really encouraging women, if you can come out to this, please. This is going to be not your typical conference.
Yeah. I wish
And
I could
lunch
be
will
there.
be
Oh my
served,
God. I wish
okay?
I could be there, but
Lunch will be served. I know the AK is doing something.
okay. So yeah. I'm not
Oh, but
100%
let me give
sure
the
I'm gonna be down there, but that's a possibility. But no, I actually have some client commitments that actually are that same weekend. So
no, I know, I understand.
yeah,
But
but
that's
I'm
what
telling y'all, if you are in the Jackson, Mississippi area, y'all need to go check out this conference. And real quick before I shut off, I want to share about my client's retreat. Dr.
Yes.
Shana is hosting the first ever Self-Care is the New Sexy, the retreat in St. Martin. It's going to be September 29th through October 3rd. So look, if you want to be a part of this, go to Self-Care is the New Sexy and check out all the details on the retreat. And I'm telling you right now, go get the early bird pricing that's currently there. The prices are going up next
Yep.
week. So go take advantage of that. And if you ain't got your passport, get your passport and come join us, because she's got an amazing group of women who are going to be talking about mental health and wellness and everything that has to do with helping you fill your cup so you can begin to give from your overflow. We got to stop giving from an empty cup, y'all. We got to stop it.
Absolutely.
And that's Dr. Shana's thing. She's all about the sauce of life, baby. Fill your cup. What's in the cup is for you. What's in the saucer is for everybody else.
Oh my God, that sounds like a whole word.
Yes. Oh my God. It changes it when you really grasp hold of that concept, that fact that if I truly love the people I'm taking care of, I want to give them my best. My best comes out of my overflow, not out of an empty cup.
Oh, girl, now that's a word right there.
So, honey,
Absolutely.
yes, I'm going to be in St. Martin with Dr. Shana running her conference, but you all should come and join us in St. Martin. And if you can't go to St. Martin, come join me in San Juan in November.
I know that's right.
Yeah, so we're going to be in San Juan November 10th through the 14th, and you can go to my website and check that out. But listen, y'all, we have been on here, and listen, if you catch this on the replay and you got questions, please put them in the comments. We will gladly answer your questions, because even if you never hire us to do anything for you, we want to make sure that you have what you need to be able to put on a successful event. That's why we popped on here, because we were having this conversation and was like, this is stuff we should share.
We need to be talking about, right?
Yeah, because there's a reality behind the scenes of events that most people don't see and don't understand, don't get until they step out there to host their first event. And I'm telling you, don't be afraid of it, but don't take it lightly.
Absolutely. I love it.
Yeah. So, Sherie, thank you so much, girl, for popping on with me tonight. Hug my baby girl, Demi, for me.
I shall.
I still have something for her that I'm going to bring to her. I have a gift for her.
Okay.
You should be used to this right now.
I should be.
But yeah, I got something for Demi, so I'm going to bring it to her.
Okay.
Well,
all right, thank you so much for having me on the talk. Let's do this more often. I love it.
Me too. All right. So listen, we'll be back, y'all. We're not sure when, but we will be back again to share more to help you make your events successful. So keep an eye out. Take care, y'all.
Bye.